To see you. Thanks very much for joining us. And we know this has become quite emotional, particularly in places like Texas, where you're right there at the border. What's your reaction to the outrage?
Well, there's a lot of anger out there, and it's a shame that anger has to drive this. But people are very passionate on both sides, and that's why it's important that we in Congress fix this, come up with a solution, and try to tone the anger down. It's not a good thing right now.
Congressman, it's Adam Shapiro. I was curious, can you do this without Democrats? Can you pass one of the bills that the Republicans are considering without any Democratic support?
Well, realistically, probably not. It's a shame. It should be a bipartisan issue. But we'll have to see. As you know, we got two bills out there. We're going to take a look at them. But it's probably going to require some Democratic assistance. But hopefully we can get it done with 218 votes on our side.
Are you getting any indication of Democrats who are willing to join you?
No, I have not. There's been a lot of conversation. I think we're not that far along. I think that we're still in the, as you call it, the negotiation stage for anybody to commit that they'd be with it. But we need to see exactly what both bills or what other bills are going to look like, and then get on with it.
Well, I will mention one prominent Democrat, and that's Chuck Schumer, the senator from New York. He said yesterday he dismissed a legislative proposal backed by Republican leaders that would keep immigrant families together at the border. He says President Trump can fix this with his pen. This is policy that's coming out of the White House. Trump should fix it. We should keep the focus on Trump. So what is he saying? He's saying that it's not about the children. It's about politics. It's about making President Trump look as bad as possible.
You're right.
I'm not arguing the policy and the way that it's been implemented, this zero tolerance policy. It has separated children from some children from their families, from their parents. But again, Senator Schumer, it's not about the kids. It's about President Trump and keeping the outrage agenda.
You agree with that, Congressman?
Well, I agree. I mean, right now, you know, if there's a lot of folks there that do not want the president to succeed, even though that would help America succeed, and it's driven by that right now. And I think you're totally right. And that's somehow we've got to fix that now. As Republicans, hopefully we can get it done ourselves and begin to drive the legislation that does fix this problem that we have at the border.
Well, let me ask you this, because governors from at least 8 states are now announcing they'll withhold or withdraw National Guard troops from the southwest border. Among them, 2 Republican governors. They are facing re-election this fall in Maryland and Massachusetts. So what about that decision to recall their National Guard in protest?
Well, I think they can make that decision. I think it's the wrong decision. We still have to defend the borders of America. In Texas, Governor Abbott, we've committed over 1,000 of our National Guard to be on the border. I think it's the right thing to do. We've got issues down there that not only are the things we see on TV lately, but we've got drug issues and other things that got to be addressed at the borders.
You know, Congressman, this is Lee Carter speaking. I earlier made a mistake when I was talking about this and said this is going to help the Democrats in the midterms. I really think what's going to happen here is that this is going to hurt. I said it was going to hurt.
You said it was going to hurt. It's going to help Democrats.
It's going to help Democrats, and it's going to hurt Republicans. And so my question to you is, as you enter the midterms, you're saying you're just in the early stages right now of figuring out what it is you're going to do to reconcile this. The level of anger, the level of outrage of the American people right now, Republicans who I have been polling and have been talking to are saying, this is too much. We have to take care of this issue and we need to do it quickly. How are you going to respond quickly so this doesn't become an issue that's going to keep Republicans from keeping the House in the midterms?
Well, I think it is an issue. We're up here to make, in many cases, make legislation, do the right thing. I'm a business person, and I'm used to doing it now. And I think we need to address it now. We can address it now. I mean, we can pass legislation, I think, that stays with the letter of the law and also can, in the children's issue, keep the children with their parents. I mean, I'm a father. Nobody likes to see what we see. But we do have to support the letter of the law and find a way to keep these children with their family. And I think then it's, you know, then we can begin to have a program that people see it's working. Heaven's sakes, we were in North Korea last week, and we don't even hear about that anymore. So we've got to get it fixed.
Congressman, it's Adam again. Would it be possible to do what's brewing in the Senate, which is to just deal with the family situation, pass specific legislation to how we house these families going forward, and separate that issue from an overall immigration bill and deal with that after the fact? Is that something the House would even be open to doing?
Well, possibly. I mean, I think I'm always fearful when when we talk about things after the fact or the next 10 years or whatever. It seems like it never comes. we need to pass legislation that addresses other things too, like amnesty and pathway to citizenship, chain migration, and that sort of thing, and pass it. And if we can get that done, including the fact that these children do not be separated from their families, let's get it done now instead of moving it on down the road, because other things are going to come up. We need to, and we can control this battle. We can control what we see on TV and get it done. It's the right thing to do.
So country musician Willie Nelson invited President Trump to join him on tour, not a concert tour, but a visit to a border detention center. He said, let's go together to, quote, better understand what's happening down there. The president is being accosted from all angles at this point over this, Congressman. What should he do?
Well, I think if he wanted to go down to Texas, I'm former Secretary of State of Texas and dealt with all these border issues, and it can be an eye-opener if you haven't actually been down there and see what it's like. So if the president wanted to go down there, and I think we'd love to have the president on the border in Texas and let him see firsthand.
Yeah.
I think he knows what's going on, but when you see it, it really brings it to life.
Yeah.